Welcome to the All the Stuff podcast, where we jam about money, clutter, and food, and the real stuff under this stuff. Join me, Lisa Carpenter, your resident food coach, along with my co-hosts, money coach Jen Turrell and clutter coach Lisa Sharp, as we help you release what's weighing you down and heal your relationship with food, money, and clutter from the inside out. Welcome to the All the Stuff podcast. I am one of your hosts, Lisa Carpenter, your resident food coach, along with my co-host, Jen Turrell, our money coach, and Lisa Sharp, our clutter coach. And today on the episode, we want to talk about slowing down. And it's kind of appropriate because it's fall, the leaves are coming off the trees around the, I'm in Vancouver. It was supposed to be this epic windstorm, which was really like and that was it. The tree shook a little bit, and that was it. I was like, okay, that wasn't really an epic storm. However, it really is kind of that time where I personally feel this pull to slow down. So I've talked a lot in previous episodes about the speed that I used to run my life at. Super busy all the time, go, didn't stop. So in comparison, my life now is definitely slowed down. And I still feel frustrated when I feel like I need to slow down more, even though that's the pull I'm feeling. So I've got a lot of white space in my business now where I get to work on things that I love and work on stuff that I don't so much love. But this notion around like still continuing to slow down, like I feel it now. So it's not even something I can ignore. Over the past couple of days, I've really been like, I really need to just kind of drop back. So this morning, I didn't get up and go to the gym, not because I was being lazy, but because I was like, you know what? I'm just tired. It's dark out. It's rainy. And a lot of people would say, well, that's just an excuse. You should push through that. I spent years pushing through that shit, to be quite honest. I don't push through it anymore. But there is that part of me that's still like, really, Lisa? Like, you're going to be comatose soon if you keep slowing down, which is not the truth, right? But it's pretty funny when I come off of a weekend and I'm like, wow, I didn't have enough time to just read or color, because I've been coloring a lot lately and painting. I still got caught in stuff that I want to do, but it's not really restful stuff. Like taking a course isn't really restful, even though I'm excited to learn. So I would love to kind of hear what's going on for you ladies as we head, we're recording this in middle of October, what it's like in your world and what slowing down feels like for you guys. So whoever wants to jump in.
I love this topic because just over this weekend, I went on a bike ride with my husband, and we love to ride bikes together, and we usually go pretty long distances. He loves it more than I do. I get tired after about an hour. He goes for like 2.5 hour bike rides around town. And we went for a bike ride on a new trail over the weekend. And we got about 20 minutes into it, and my body was just not having it. I was like, man, this is not fun. I am not enjoying any of this. And I'm pretty cranky and I'm hot and my muscles are really just like, normally you can, like if you're doing a workout or if you're exercising, moving in some way, like maybe the first 10 minutes might be kind of rocky, but then usually, things start loosening up and, you get into the gear and then it's fun, or at least not heinous. And I guess it depends on what sort of workout you're doing, but I'm not really in it for punishment. I like to do exercise that's fun, and I usually love to bike ride. And this weekend I was like, I can't do anymore, and I don't want to. This is my day off, and I'm doing something that I don't want to be doing. And even though it was with my husband, I was like, So I said to him, I'm like, yeah, I got to go home. And he was like, huh? He really had it in his head. We were going to do this thing together, and he had really been looking forward to it. So we got into an argument as we're riding our bikes, which is pretty funny because, you're like pedaling and yelling at each other, which was really, I'm sure people on the trail were like, what is going on with these people? And so it got to be this really funny thing. And then we made up and it was fine. And he went on his way and I went back home. And the next day I got really sick. And it was like, oh,
Sorry.
Explosive. I did the implosion sneeze there because I didn't want to sneeze into the microphone.
But that, you know, it just goes to illustrate. It's like sometimes when we're like, but I should do this, but you know, normally this is okay. Why is this so hard? And we get into this sort of mind game of like, what's wrong with me? I should be able to push through this. Should. And, you know, the next day I was laid out on the couch. I was on the couch for 48 hours. I was like, couldn't lift my head off of the couch, but I wasn't having all of those symptoms at the time, but my body was just like, no, Lisa, stop. And I think that's such a great illustration of what you're talking about, Lisa, because because we do this and it's like our bodies and our minds give us all these little subtle cues like, hey, it's time for a change. Hey, it's time to slow down. Hey, it's time to move, you know, whatever it is. But we're like so much in our heads that we just sort of override. We override those messages until those messages get so loud that we're on the couch for 48 hours and can't lift our head off.
You know, it takes time. And, you know, Jen, you can speak to this. For me, for the longest time, I really wasn't even tuned into how I was feeling. I wasn't listening to my body. And I preach this all the time, that our bodies are always talking to us. But we also feel things all the time as well. And we're ignoring that by shopping, eating, spending, et cetera, right? So when you start to tune in to how you're actually feeling, you can follow kind of the direction. And like I said, sometimes I know that I'm feeling tired, but then I get back into my head and say, well, you know, you need to push through it. Sometimes I do need to push through. Sometimes I don't. It's really, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just about that paying attention, that tuning in and going, what do I need? So kudos to you for going back home, because I've done that before too. And let me tell you, like, there's been times in my workouts where I've been like, I just can't do this. And I'm in a class. So then, you know, my ego is just going crazy. Like, oh, you're failing, you're not trying hard enough, blah, blah, blah. And the truth is, my body is saying, like, just chill out. You know, you'll ride again another day, Lisa, and I will work out again another day. But learning to trust that we go through these different seasons as well, right? Like when it starts to get dark out in the morning, it's dark at 5:15 when my alarm goes off. Whereas in the summer at 5:15, I'm like, oh, beautiful. I get to see the sunrise. Like, it's lovely, right? The color is lovely. It's not lovely when it's dark and cold and raining at 5:15 in the morning. So there's always this period where I go through where every year it's cyclical every year. I'm like, this is the week that I'm taking off because it's like my body is readjusting. Mm-hmm. So how are you slowing down, Jen? Because you've got a lot going on in your life right now, too.
I do. And, you know, as you guys were talking about that, I was listening to a book yesterday on audiobook called Pivot by Jenny Blakely, I think. And I had just gotten to this point where she was talking about actually listening to your gut. And she referenced a book, which I can't remember now because I was driving while I was listening to it. But it was basically talking about the gut brain versus the head brain, and how when bodies are forming, we actually have so many neurons in our gut system that it does react kind of like a brain, and that far more messages go from the gut to the brain than from the brain to the gut. And how for animals and instinctual creatures who listen to their instincts, that's almost as big a part of their survival mechanism as the brain, you know, the lizard brain and all of that. And it was so interesting because I was like, oh, I would, even though, yes, that totally makes sense that there's lots of neurons, there's lots of activity down there, I would never thought of it as a source of actual thought. You know, I mean, she didn't go so far as to say thought, but it was just this idea that your gut can tell you a lot. It can tell you a lot about your anxiety level, possibly better than the thinking brain, logical brain can, and all of that. So it was just making me think about that. And yeah, this fall I have really slowed down. So in January of 2016, I tried doing that 90-day year, you know, the Todd Herman one, that lots of people are excited about, and I know it works really well for lots of people. It did not for me. I'm not fantastic at having, you know, a coach kind of like yell at you kind of feeling of a program. Do you know what I mean? Like, go, sprint right now. What's your sprint today? What are you doing? Like, measure this, do that. And which is some way I do need a personal trainer to help me exercise because I don't do that to myself. But so I had all these plans for the first quarter, some of which I hit, some I didn't. And then second quarter, I kind of took off. And third quarter, I was planning on trying it again. Like, okay, maybe I'll give it another go. I had this launch plan. I won an apprenticeship to Bushra Azar's sold out launch program. I had all these plans, and then several things came up. My VA decided to downsize and only focus on a few clients. So I lost the VA I'd been using all this time. And then the ranch offer came up. Just kind of everything changed. And I ended up being like, you know what I really would like to do this year is write. I'd like to finish one of those books I've started over the years and sketched out plans for. So yeah, rather than launching a program and doing lots of client work, I have actually done the opposite. I've signed up for NaNoWriMo for November. I'm not taking any new clients on until the new year, and I'm really slowing down for the end of this year. And some of it's figuring out, we have a lot of stuff to close up with leaving the ranch and everything. But some of it's also just, I feel like I want to do something else. Writing feels really good. Reading books feels really good right now. We're doing a lot of new stuff with my daughter, too. My oldest, we're going back and forth to Tucson a lot to this aerodigestive clinic for pediatric rare diseases. And I just don't actually feel like pushing with business stuff right now.
So that's a really great point, because it comes back to this yes versus no. Right? Yes versus no. And there's always a price to pay when we start to make choices. But in order to create space for ourselves, it means looking at our list of all these things that we've got in our calendar and going through and saying, what do I need to start saying no to so I can start saying yes to the things that are going to nurture me, right? So I had to go through my calendar this week. I'm like, I really need an extra day off that like literally has no work in it. If I choose to do something like, there is a class that I've been dying to dive into that I just want space to sit, like with no distractions and just like take it in. But it means like totally clearing my schedule and saying like, no, I can't book anybody on this day. I won't have any calls. I won't have anything. It's also meant going through my social calendar on the weekends and taking things off that, which doesn't always feel good because I'm saying no to things that I would really like to do. But at the end of the day, they're not going to help me feel rested and connected to myself. And tonight I'm starting my first live class for the EAT program that just went live again. So I'm super excited about that. But what that means is over the next 6 weeks that the Facebook group is incredibly engaged. I give 110% to everybody that's in that group. So along with teaching the calls, I'm doing a lot more live streaming. So there's a lot more energy out. So in order to make space for that and not continue to feel depleted, it means other stuff. I have to say no to other stuff because I'm already feeling tired. And I think that this is a pattern that a lot of women get into. It's they're feeling tired. They're feeling run down. They know they need to slow down, yet they're uncomfortable saying no. They're uncomfortable saying no to other people. They're uncomfortable saying no to themselves. Or saying yes to themselves. They're uncomfortable giving themselves whatever they need, whether it's 20 minutes in a bubble bath or an hour with their favorite book or going to a coffee shop with no family and just sitting there, people watching because they can instead of feeling like they have to multitask all the time. So it really is, this wanting to slow down. I think more of us need to give ourselves permission to do that, but you have to be okay with the discomfort of saying no to other things, even if that's just being busy all the time, right?
And I think it gets easier too, the more you say no. I was saying to my husband recently, I was just sort of like, I was just listening to myself, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I sound really stressed out. I'm sounding a little control-ish here. I'm sounding a little bit like the dictator person we talked about a couple episodes ago. And I was like, so it's good to like kind of, know thyself, right? Like what are your behaviors when you start getting really like too busy? And that's one of my behaviors that I know about myself. I think you guys can also relate to that. Mm-hmm. And so when I start feeling, and my neck also starts getting really, really tight because I'm walking around like this all day going, oh, I'm going to get it all done. I'm going to push harder. I'm going to push harder. And then I'm like, oh, Lisa, okay. All right. So my neck is like, when it starts getting twingy, I'm like, oh, all right, pay attention. What am I supposed to be doing? What can I say no to? And that is my first line of defense is I start canceling things. I go to my calendar and I'm like, yeah, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. I can reschedule that dentist appointment. I can do, and I just start clearing stuff off. And when I started doing that a couple of years ago, it was like, well, you can't. You made an appointment. You have to keep it, It's
integrity, follow through.
Integrity, yeah, right. I mean, what is your dentist going to think of you if you move your head in 2 weeks? Like, who the hell cares, right? They're never going to know the difference. But in my head, that's the way I was thinking. And the same thing with, stuff that I was doing for my business was like, oh, I have to do this. This is so important, so important, so important. And then I was just like, reality check. No, it isn't. This is really not important. Is anybody sick? No. Is anybody dying? No. Do you have money in your bank? Yep. Okay, you're good. You're good. Pretty much everything else can just chill out for a while and not happen. And there's, just getting comfortable with that open space. And now I'm like, open space. Like if I sort of have like this internal threshold, it's like I can take up to so many clients at any given time. And when I start going beyond that, usually because I'm having a hard time saying no, I'm trying to work something in, I might be like over caretaking my clients. And I'm like, okay, no, because if I start doing that, I'll burn myself out and then I'm no good to anybody, So it's definitely personally and professionally saying no is like so important, but it is uncomfortable.
And I think there are ways to kind of structure in some boundaries too. Like one of the things I love about online schedulers is that you can just open up exactly the times that you want and offer them to people. And lately with Tallulah's stuff, the scheduling's been a little more immediate than most medical things. So I have had to move people around them and some calls and things. But you know what? It's fine and everybody does it. And a lot of the things that we think are really important that we're going to do, nobody notices if we don't do that. Maybe they notice if we do them, like a live stream or a webinar, or that was something too. Like when I was planning on doing this launch and had this whole plan that felt very stressful to me because I've never launched. I've still never launched. I just tell people if I have something available, and then I don't if I don't, and they totally don't notice that I don't launch. I mean, I don't think anyone has ever been like, "Wow, Jen never launches anything." Nobody cares. I mean, they might notice if I start putting a bunch of ads and do a launch. Someone might notice, but hopefully a few people would. But yeah, people don't notice if you stop doing things, if you back off, if you step back. You may, and there is opportunity cost always. You may have reached someone who would become a client right at that moment, and you didn't do that thing, and you lost them, maybe forever. But you don't know that. No, they don't know that. So
you can't lose something you never had.
Yeah,
right. And I think it's really important to, saying you've never done a launch. I think that there's something really important in there because you're really honoring where you're at right now, and you're listening to your gut about what's good. So I just did finish a launch for Eat, but it was a launch that I felt good about doing. And all I did was live streams. I did a live stream every day. Oh, wait, I didn't do it every day because one day I was like, I got nothing. It's 8:00 at night. I got nothing and it's not happening. And the voice was like, yeah, but you're launching. You need to show up. You need to be consistent. And I went, and that's my own voice. And I was just like, no, like nobody's going to die. Like I can't buy into this. If I just did this, then I would create this to happen. So, it was a beautiful launch. It felt very authentic. Like it felt very much in alignment. I just talked about the stuff that I wanted to talk about. I came on, I gave value. I was just me. Some new people signed up for the classroom, which is exciting. Some of them came from the live streams, but most of them were people that I'd connected with in person or that, had been following on the podcast or whatever. But it felt good. There was zero stress. And had I, really pushed hard and like had the Instagram stuff and had the gazillion emails, although I could do an email every day, but the email again was easy. It was just the live stream from the day before. It felt good. It wasn't draining. It wasn't depleting. It is part of why this week I'm like, okay, I need to rest a little bit because it does impact my energy, but not in the same way, if all the bells and whistles and fireworks had been going off. So I think that you should actually be celebrating the fact that you've just stayed in alignment with what feels good for you right now, because there's always another opportunity to try again or to do it a different way whenever you want. You could decide to launch tomorrow if you want, right? Like there's no rules. And I think that that's what we get caught in is this belief that there's rules, like Lisa was talking about, the shoulds, right? We should do this. We should go for the bike ride. We should work out. We should do a launch. And when you let go of all that stuff and just say, well, how do I want to feel? What's in alignment with that? How can I put one foot in front of the other? It's a much more nurturing way to go through life and business.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question for the two of you, because I think a lot of women will listen to this conversation and say like, no, but it's all important. You know, they have, no, I'm serious. Like, and that's legit. That's totally legit, right? Because it depends on like what life stage you're in. Like all of the three of us have kids that are older. We're kind of in that sweet spot where our kids are more independent than they used to be. Our parents are older, but they're still in pretty good health. And we don't have that sort of, that pressure that you have when you're younger and have younger kids, or, you know, whatever age you are when you have younger kids, or that you have parents who have failing health, or there could be, you know, a number of other scenarios in that mix. But that's, as women, we tend to be the ones that are taking care of these things. You know, if we're married, if we're not, we tend to be the ones that are heading this stuff up and are the ones that are paying attention to all the details and doing all the things and making all the phone calls. And so I kind of, I'd like for us to talk a little bit more about that, because it's kind of easy for us. The three of us have a lot of hats that we're wearing. We do a lot of things, without a doubt. I don't mean to minimize that, but a lot of this isn't crushing, you know, isn't like imminent. And some people are in that sort of situation. So what would you say to those people?
Oh, I love this. I love this, because I think some of it, so I'm going to swear again, so we're going to get like the E rating. I think some of it is bullshit, to be quite honest, because we buy into these stories, right? We've got to be doing all the things. And the truth is, we can ask for help. Mm-hmm. So a lot of women take on this role of overfunctioner, making all the appointments, doing all the things. I was that woman. I did it all. And there were people around me to help, but I would never ask for help, because if I asked for help, then, well, I derived a lot of my importance in my life from being able to do all the things. So it's sitting back and looking at the stories and saying, what can you put down? Because I guarantee you, you can ask your husband to do the dishes and fold the laundry. And you might not like the way he folds the laundry, but who cares? Like, it's folded. Like, get over yourself. So look at your life and look at the things you can get rid of. If you've got young kids, what other moms do you know with young kids so you can trade off? Because each of you needs time. So if you got 2 kids, what's the difference if you got 4? And one person gets to go to the coffee shop or go get her nails done or whatever. There are lots of opportunities and possibilities and perspectives if people are willing to look at them and step into them. But staying in this land of being the victim and the martyr does not serve you. It will burn you out, and eventually you will have to come face to face with yourself and make changes in your life. Like, because in the process of doing all the things, you're letting your health go. You're letting the things that are truly important to you, like what makes you special on this planet. If you didn't have your kids, you didn't have your husband, you didn't have your job, you didn't have all the things, you didn't have all your stuff, what makes you uniquely you? What lights you up? And are you nourishing that? Because at the end of the day, we're each responsible for taking care of ourselves. So I get quite, passionate about this, but it is such an important thing that we have to stop playing this martyr card and buying into, we have to do all the things. So we do have responsibilities, like Jen, with your kids. There are very specific responsibilities that you can't just say, sorry, girls, mom's having a bubble bath, so hook up your own feeding tube and I'll catch up with you later. Like, obviously that's not okay. However, you still get to be important in your own life, Jen. You get to be important in your own life, Lisa. Same with me. It does get easier as our kids get older, and it can get challenging as well. Like, teenagers aren't exactly, like, you gotta be dialed into that stuff, ladies. Oh my goodness. And it's, you gotta be dialed in at like midnight. Well, my brain shuts off at like 9 o'clock. So that's been a bit of an issue as well. So anyways, I'll pass it over to Jen to talk.
Well, Yeah. So I was just thinking back to when my kids were little, and when Miffy was 6 months old, that was when Tallulah was diagnosed with autism. And that was a moment when, both with having a new baby and if something big happens either to your children or with your parents, it's a golden opportunity when everyone is ready to rally around you and ready to give help. And a lot of us, at that time, I was not ready to accept the help. I wanted to be in charge of everything and take care of my kids. And I felt like nobody else could really do it because they didn't understand. They weren't used to Tallulah and the way that she communicated and all kinds of things. And now if you wait too long, everyone gets used to you doing all the things and the help goes away. So if you...
Great point.
In the moment when people are ready to rally, when you have a new baby, accept all the help that you possibly can. Because after a while, it doesn't seem... It's not a new thing to everyone else, and they won't think to offer anymore. But you can still ask. You can still ask later on.
Mm-hmm. That's important, We teach people how to treat us. And we teach people to not help us because we got it.
It's
and
so
in the process,
true.
Like I said, we become martyrs in our own lives, which is crap.
Yeah. I definitely see that with my clients, time and again. Probably the majority of the people that I work with do that. So they are doing all of the things. They're running their houses. They're the ones that are buying all of the stuff. They're making all the appointments. They're taking care of the kids. They're working full time. They're volunteers. They're taking care of their aging parents. I mean, that is so normal. And then they're like, but I don't have time. I don't have time. And I'm always like, yeah, you do actually. It's really about making choices. And if you train your kids by doing everything for them, you're missing out on an opportunity to get some help and to teach them some skills. Same thing with your husband or your wife or whatever your relationship is, and you just totally nailed it. We treat others, or we teach others how to treat us. So if we just do I guess I'll just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we'll just do it.
So over functioners create under functioners. Yeah, and then we get pissed off at the under functioners because why aren't they helping? Well, of course they're not helping because you've trained them to under function because you got it. So they automatically start to lean on you, right? So then resentment comes in and all this stuff. And it's messy. It's messy.
You can definitely destroy a relationship that way too.
Totally.
And the thing is, I think as women too, that because we communicate so much with one another, sometimes we forget how to communicate with our spouses. And what is blindingly obvious to us is not to them. And then we tend to sort of do the hand on the hip, it's so obvious, da 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 da. Well, if it's, can you flip that around, right? I mean, because it is so obvious to us, but how would it feel if somebody did that to you? No, you're such an idiot because you don't know how to do this. Well, you'd be flipping them the bird. You think I'm going to help you? Why on God's green earth would I help you do whatever it is that you want me to help you if you're treating me like a moron, right? And it's an unintended consequence, but we really do loop ourselves into this behavior, and we loop our spouses and our families in. So we're all playing a little part in this. It's not just one person and we're in a vacuum. We're all kind of bouncing off one another, and change comes when we kind of pull back from this dynamic and say okay, what's my part in this? And how can I start speaking in a way that is kinder, that is gentler, that's less aggressive, that's less, whatever. Because I guarantee you, if you're sitting on your couch with your spouse and you're holding hands and you say, I'd really like to talk to you about X, Y, or Z, they're going to be far more likely to listen to you than if you're going,
Exactly.
And the same thing with our kids, same thing with our parents. But it's kind of that backing down and being vulnerable. That's where the gold is. It's like you're just really saying to somebody, I really need help, and not, you never do this for me. Because people don't, you say you never do this for me, it's going to keep going that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this is really particular for women who end up staying home with kids. Because what I was thinking of just as you were talking through that was, prior to having kids, my husband and I both worked outside of the house, and we really tried to be really equal with housework. But then when I was the one staying home with the kids who needed the extra help and he was out all day, personally, I thought staying home with infants, and especially once there were two of them and one of them had special needs, obviously, right around that time, I felt like what I was doing at home was way harder than any work I had ever done outside of the home. I mean, that was so much more challenging than the most difficult jobs I'd had before. So I would feel exhausted when he came home. And yet I think his perspective was he was the one out working all day. So he needed to come home and have a rest. And I'd be like, can you please take a baby here? Like, like, I need a break. I haven't peed in 3 hours. Like,
Oh, I remember those days.
yeah, and I think every couple has those to differing degrees, particularly if one person does take some time off. And I know there came a point in terms of our creative, like Stu and I, with trying to recover some from the state we got into with all of the hyper functioning of me trying to fix everything with autism for a while, was both of us trying to get creative again and get back in touch with what we used to do, which for Stu was starting music and I was wanting to do some writing. But he could easily walk past a kitchen that had looked like an explosion had happened, you know, pots and pans and dirty dishes everywhere. He doesn't even see it. He could easily walk to his recording studio and do that. And I could not seem to walk past that and leave it to come down to my office to write or to read or to do music myself. It was too big on my brain, and I don't know why. There's a point in let's see, maybe it's the War of Art. It's one of those books about, you know, getting over resistance, where he was talking to this woman who had written a novel, and he asked her, what does she do each day? She wanted to write another one, and she hadn't been able to do it. And she would say, okay, well, you know, first I get everybody breakfast and get the kids ready for school and pack the lunches, blah, blah, and then get them off to school. And then I come back and then I tidy the house and I, you know, pay bills or do whatever. And then if there's any time left before I pick up the kids, then I write. And she was, okay, so what I see as being the most important things in your life are your family, number one, because you get them ready first thing and get them off to school and feed them and all of that. And then next is housework. Housework is the second most important thing in your life. And she's like, oh, no, that's not true at all. And he's like, well, obviously it's more important to you than writing because that's the next thing that you do. Like, that's what you're making the next most important thing. And she says, well, no, it's not that. It's just I have to do it. I can't have my husband and kids come home to a messy house with no dinner ready. And he's like, what do you think your husband would do if he came home and you had written 5 chapters of your book and there was no dinner and the house was a mess? Do you think he would be angry or would he be proud of you? And she's like, well, he'd actually probably be proud of me that I'd gotten so much writing done. He was like, exactly. Right. So, you know, I think with a lot of couples that comes to this point, especially once the spouse has been trained not to do any of those things, because I do think a lot of couples start out right now, especially trying to keep things pretty evenly in the home. And it's not until the babies come and you stay at home, or, you know, that's where I see this sort of slipping back into these very old domestic roles of the 50s that make women feel angry and stifled. So, you know, so for us, what I eventually did was I was like, okay, I can't seem to leave that. I need some help. So I hired some extra help. It came to a point where I was like, do I want to hire some more help for the kids so that I can clean while the help is playing with my children? Or do I want, you know, because I need a work day, or do I want to hire someone to do some cleaning so that after work and school I can play with my kids? So there was a point where for a while we hired someone to help me with the cleaning. And it was kind of a revelation. Stu didn't like it, but I was like, well, if you'll help me more, then we don't need help with the cleaning.
That's so great, right? The asking for help and actually, you know, bringing in a housekeeper. And some people can or can't, you know, they do or don't have the budget for that. And I would challenge that as well. And I know you would as well, Jen, because I think that we can really find the money for the things that are important, and how valuable is that time if you get it back.
And is it a trade-off with nanny, babysitting, tutoring, or versus housekeeping? Yeah.
There's always a trade-off, right? Like, what are you saying yes to? What are you saying no to, right? So you don't get to eat out as much, but your house is nice and clean all the time. Totally worth it for me. Anyways, what I'd love to do is leave our listeners with an activity that they can try. And this is something that I took out of my 10 Days of You program, and it can be pretty powerful, is sit down with pen and paper, right? Give yourself some free time. Maybe you got to lock yourself in the bathroom while the kids are banging on the wall. I don't know. But list out, and you know, you can keep a running note in your phone if you want. Again, it's kind of like food logging, but it's busy logging. Log everything you do in a day for the next 3 or 4 days, so you can actually see. So everything from driving the kids to the laundry, to the housework, to the grocery shopping, like just write down everything you do in a day. That's step 1, because then you're going to be able to go through that and say, what needs to come off of this list? Where can I ask for help? Where can I get support? Where can I start under functioning and allowing people to start functioning more, right? So changing those patterns. The second thing is sit down and write a list of all the things you love, love, love to do that you used to do before you had kids, before you became a wife, before life got super busy, whether it's painting, writing, reading, having a bath, going for a walk, going out with friends. It doesn't matter. Self-care doesn't need to be, you know, a day at the spa. It can be, but it doesn't need to be. It's what things actually make you feel connected with you, help you slow down, tune in, and pay attention to what nurtures your soul. So write those 2 lists. See, when you start saying no to the busy work, that's going to open up space for you to have some time to do some of those things on that self-care list. And then don't tuck the self-care list in a drawer. Because if you're at a place in your life where your default is busy all the time, you have to keep that list front and center so that you know that doing something on that list every week, or maybe it's 20 minutes a day, is non-negotiable. So that's where I'm at in my life. Like, it's not okay for me to be exhausted at the end of the day. If I am, that means I haven't done something on my self-care list. And yesterday, I didn't get out for a walk. I did work out in the morning yesterday. I didn't today. But during the day, I didn't really take a break. And at the end of the day, I could feel it. And that was my responsibility. So that list helps to guide you, and it helps to build that trust in yourself to take care of yourself and stop being the martyr. Like, no longer have that as the status quo. So I would love for everybody to do that. If you're in our Facebook group, post your lists in the Facebook group. Like, give us a list. Show us what you're so freaking busy with every single day. And then show us the different pieces of self-care that maybe you've forgotten that you are going to commit to adding in to your day. Right? I think it's a starting point. It's a starting point. And if you want to learn more about the 10 days of you, I think it's up on my website at lisacarpenter.ca. We'll get it referenced in the show notes as well, because it's a whole 10 days of working that stuff out. Anything you guys want to say to wrap up this episode?
I think that's a great idea. A while ago, I read a book called 168 Hours You Have More Time Than You Think, which we should link to you because it's a fantastic book by Laura Vanderkam, who is she basically studies time use of people. She's written quite a few books. And what I loved in that was looking at the whole week and seeing the time blocks that you have and how many little bits we fritter away into little things. And I know for me, social media is a really difficult one because I feel like I reach the people that I communicate with on social media. So it's important and I want to nurture relationships there. But it is so easy to scroll and be like, oh, should I post this? Should I retweet that? Should I boost this? Should I, it's easy to fritter time away. So I did actually put Toggle, which is an app. There are a lot of different ones you can try on my phone and my desktop. So it reminds me to track my time so I can see what I'm doing. I think it's a good exercise to see, like even on the computer, what are you spending your time doing while you're on there? And with knowing I want to do NaNoWriMo in November, it's like opening up the pockets of time where I want to sit and do some serious writing and not have distractions and turn my phone off and have my notifications off and stuff. So yeah, if you want to do more than a pen and paper, you can try Toggle. If you are interested in how people arrange their time, 168 Hours is a great book, and I'll leave it there.
Awesome.
She also has a free tracker sheet, a time tracker sheet that you can download. I actually have people in my Blueprint, my membership program, do that because I think it's such an eye opener. We think that we have a pretty good idea of where our time goes, but when you actually do track it, it's like, oh, oops.
I think it's like tracking your food or your money. There are things that we're willfully unaware of sometimes, and when you become aware, then the clarity lets you see the changes you can make.
Yeah, and I want to wrap on this note that getting back to, paying attention to slowing down. The next time that you are on your bike, whatever that thing is, if you're doing that thing like I was doing on my bike ride and you start feeling that, I just don't really want to be doing this. And it keeps coming up and your body starts giving you some like, oh, I'm tired, I'm achy, I'm whatever. And it could be going out for dinner with friends. It could be going to the grocery store. It could be riding a bike. It could be doing something for work. It really doesn't matter. But whenever you start feeling that resistance, I really want you guys to just listen. You don't have to do anything with it, but just get conscious of what your body and what your mind is actually telling you. So that's your assignment. Pay attention.
This was a good episode. We always start in one place and then we kind of, it's all relevant. So this was a good episode because I know we all hopped on here kind of like, oh, we're tired. It's slowing down time. It ended up being a really spirited conversation. So thank you, ladies. So I would love to invite everybody over to iTunes to please rate, review the show. It helps us get found by other people, by other podcasters, by other listeners. So we would greatly appreciate it if you could do that.
And if you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below the episode. Let us know what you think and let us know if you have ideas for future episodes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And come over to our Facebook group. It's free, and you can come over and join it. And it's just a really cool community of women that are dealing with all of these issues that we talk about on the podcast. We really we're interested in fostering this relationship, creating a community of like-minded souls that are really into taking care of ourselves and making a better world. So the link to that will be in the show notes also below.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for hanging out with me again, ladies. I love when we record these episodes, and I'm excited for when this one goes live. So until next time, bye, everybody. Bye.